different-looking roster, even though it's one he really likes, and I think has a chance to be, if they're healthy and if they do kind of go through the growing pains they're having to as a team right now, they've got a chance to be great by the time we get to March. But they're, man, you go Purdue a week after they were number one, which to me is tougher, just like you're facing with Arizona. You're facing them coming off a loss, which is even tougher than playing them when they've had things cooking. So they caught Purdue the week after they were number one, played them a neutral site game in Canada, which wasn't really neutral. There were a bunch of fans in Toronto that were Zach Edey fans. We were supposed to have our 7-footer from Canada, and Charles Bediako, he opted to stay in the draft and sign with San Antonio. So we didn't have ours, and they won a tight ball game. Then you go and play in Omaha against a great Creighton team. We had a game-time shot from Mark Sears at the buzzer that was halfway down and then some and popped out. And the tough thing is you played two of your best games all year, and you're 0-2 in those ball games. And you could play better in this one and be 0-3. It's going to take something, I think, that they're capable of, but something that we haven't fully seen from this team, which is defending as well as being tremendous on offense in order to get a W in a tough setting in Phoenix here.
I want to go back to something you said early. You said, obviously, that this team, Alabama, beat a pair of number ones last year. One of those was North Carolina in a thrilling 4-overtime match. A game in which Caleb Love scored 34 points. What was your impression of Caleb Love in that game last year?
You know, here's the thing. I would love to be able to give you a lot of in-depth analysis on that one, but I had football that same week. And so Roger Hoover, one of our broadcast partners, had the basketball call on that one. So I missed it. I didn't get to the chance to broadcast what was a great win and a great ball game. But I know we'll have our fill of that in this ball game tonight.
Yeah, I forgot you were filling in last year for the legendary Eli Gold on the football side as well. Well, when you look, obviously, at this Alabama team coming in this year and some of the things that have been going on, and listening to Nate Oates, obviously, we were talking to the Purdue people last week, and they said, Alabama took 46 three-point shots, and then listening to Nate's press conference yesterday, and he said, I think we would like to take 50 three-point shots. Why would that be the right way to go for this offense, to throw up 53 balls to try to beat Arizona?
Well, yeah, his philosophy is this, layups or threes. You know, he'll take a mid-range if it's wide open, if you're a really good mid-range shooter. But if you're a three-point shooter and you're open, you better shoot it or you're coming out. And it's one of the reasons I think they've been so successful on the recruiting trail is if you're a player, if you're a really good, skilled offensive guy, that's what you want to play in. You want the green light to shoot the basketball. He's not going to get upset if you take a three and miss. If it's if it's open, if it's a good shot, if it's in the flow of the offense, and they love to get it and go. They love to get shots in the first 10 seconds of the shot clock. They don't want to force things. Nobody does, but they want to push tempo. They want to put the pressure on the defense early, have you on your heels. And if you can get an open three, you better let it go. And they, one of the reasons why I think he wouldn't mind seeing 50 is because it means they're getting opportunities there, but they're going to have to get to the rim, which is so tough against Arizona. But unfortunately, it was really tough sledding against Creighton, and it was tough against, obviously, Edey and Purdue. But you're going to have to get to the rim, and Creighton did a great job of saying, if you get to the rim, we're comfortable with what we've got as a protector there. We're just going to push you off the three-point line or push you inside the three-point line and make you drive because we like what we've got on the back line, and I'm sure Arizona feels the same way with what they have there also.
We're joined by Alabama radio broadcaster Chris Stewart. Today's scouting report is brought to you by Ram Plumbing. When your plumbing is in trouble, called Ram on the Double. Mark Sears is leading this offensive charge. Two teams that like to score in the 90s. What's kind of been special with the way Mark has kind of stepped into that leadership role with obviously the departure of some of the guards you had last year in Brandon Miller and Javon Quinterly?
Yeah, and the fact I think that it's his second year in the system is where the leadership comes from. In addition to that being his personality, he's a great kid. He's an Alabama kid, even though he started his career at Ohio University. He's only been back in the Alabama program for a year, but that gives him as much experience. I mean, the veterans are Sears, who's in his second year, Rylan Griffin, who is a sophomore and in his second year, and you've also got Nick Pringle, who's in his second year and is a JUCO transfer. So it's not like these guys have been around a ton, but they've at least got 12 months working with and under Nate Oates in that. And I started to say in the staff, but the staff's all new. He had the here's the thing, and it's one of the storylines to me of this entire season, is that the guy not only had to go out and sign a total of 9 new players. Now, he had some already in the signing class when the departures took place and the draft took place. But 9 new players are on this roster, and all 3 assistant coaches got Division I head coaching jobs. And these are guys that he had as his staff for each of the first 4 years that he was the head coach at Alabama. So he joked about it, but he was serious. He goes, I'm walking around in the office. I got nobody to talk to. He goes, my assistants left. He goes, my assistants left, and they took the guys that were, young guys, grad managers, or, what you would term, and I don't mean it disrespectfully, but lesser roles that got a chance to go with these 3 guys, and it was an upgrade for them professionally. He goes, I got nobody to talk to. I had to go hire a staff just to have some company. So he did, and they went out and did a phenomenal job putting together the class that they did, where they've got a chance to be competitive. They've got a couple they'd love to have back. They don't like the outcomes or the way they played against Clemson or Ohio State. But again, the others are not bad losses, and those 2 are certainly not bad losses either. But they've got to get better, and they feel like they are, and it's trending the right way. But, man, they got their hands full tonight.
Chris, you mentioned the second-year players and that experience in the system. I understand that the 3 guys at the top of the scoring charts, Aaron Estrada, we didn't mention, and Grant Nelson, those are both senior transfers who transferred in. This is their first year, obviously, with the Crimson Tide. Yeah. A lot of experience, even though those guys might not have been out there in that system for a length of time. 5 seniors getting a lot of rotation minutes. My question is, who are the other guys? You mentioned the recruiting. Who are some of the young guys that the Arizona Wildcat fan base should be interested in taking a look at? Because we know about that senior leadership. We've seen a lot of senior-led teams in the recent months. Who are some of the younger guys that we should keep an eye out on?
Yeah, first of all, I owe you an apology. I didn't really answer the Mark Sears question, and I got off on a tangent, which I'm bad about. I'll quickly say this about Mark. He's a little undersized in terms of height, but that's the only thing he's lacking. He's improved his body physically even more from last year. Strong, tough, great shooter, but can finish at the rim. He's left-handed, which I've always felt like if you're a lefty, it gives you a little bit of maybe a millisecond step on somebody because you're used to a righty. He is a tough, hard-nosed, smart, really skilled player, and I'm so glad that he's in an Alabama uniform because he's a huge help and really helps younger guys. Jaron Stevenson, who's a forward who I think classified or reclassified so that he could play this year. Noah Clowney was a huge part of what Alabama did last year in being the number 1 seed, going into the NCAA tournament, and then he gets drafted in the first round. But Jaron is so similar. Now, he's not Noah, yet he's got a chance to be that type player, but he's a raw version of that. And I know that sounds weird to talk about a guy who was a freshman in college last year, is got an understudy, for lack of a better term, who's kind of a raw version of him. But Jaren's basically a high school senior playing high-level Division I basketball right now. He's out of Chapel Hill, North Carolina, 6'11", 210, but can shoot the three, is getting stronger, can get to the rim. He even wears the same number that Noah wore last year, number 15. He's fun to watch. Sam Walters, 6'10", just under 200 pounds, and he's another guy out of Jacksonville, Florida, or near Jacksonville, that's having to bulk up on the job to be able to handle the toughness. And he's taking his lumps, but man, he can stroke it. He's a fun guy to watch, and he's going to develop, I think, into a great player. But one other freshman, Muhammad Diabate, who's from Queens, New York, and I forget that he's a freshman because he looks like he's about a 29-year-old man. I mean, he's 6'7", 215. He's one of those that I say, God kind of chiseled him when you look at him physically. He's a great athlete. And then you got not freshmen, but their transfers in. Latrell Reitzel is an Omaha native who played his college ball, the bulk of it at Cal State Fullerton. But he had a year left. Bama got him out of the portal. Has been up and down, but is a really talented guard. He's just got to see the ball go through the basket a few times, and he can be a big help. Davin Cosby's another freshman. He's got great upside and has had some moments, but he's got some work to do still. But the future looks really good for Alabama. Here's the thing. With the portal and the way things are in the NCAA right now, what your roster looks like right now, there is no guarantee of it. Used to be you go, all right, well, this kid's a freshman, this kid's a sophomore, man, he's going to be special next year. You got no guarantees of a guy coming back the next year. It used to be, well, if he has a great year, he's going to go into the draft. Well, there's no guarantee of a kid being around, period, regardless of what type of year he has. If he plays a ton, maybe he goes to the draft. If he doesn't play much, maybe he goes into the portal. So it's truly 1 year at a time. And the ones that manage that well are the ones that are going to be able to sustain success. But it's very tough. You can't do it the old school way, or you can't rely on it being the old school way anymore.
The two teams playing are number 1 and number 3 in scoring this year, Chris. And they're doing it seemingly in a little bit different ways, because looking at the assist numbers, Arizona number 1 in the country, Alabama almost down towards 100 at 14.8. Do you chalk that up to Nate Oates' system? You said threes and at the rim is what they're looking for in the offense. Are these transfers, 9 new players in this system, still trying to figure out each other's tendencies? And is that why maybe the assist numbers? Because obviously scoring 92 points a game, can't go wrong with that. Is it really more? I saw a lot of straight line drives and trying to get to the rim, but what's the reason for that incredible scoring number with maybe not as many assists responsible for it?
The bigger issue for this team, and I'll finish with this one, is really the defensive end, because they've got to get better there. There's a lot of guys, and the reason you maybe don't have as many assists is because everybody on the floor practically can go from the perimeter or can go from one end of the floor to the other. And I'm not saying everything is coast to coast, but they do have the ability to get to the rim on their own from the perimeter, whether you're talking about Grant Nelson at 6'11", or whether you're talking about Mark Sears. If this team's going to be who we think they can be, it's going to have to be figuring it out collectively, though, on the defensive end.
Chris, we appreciate you joining us for a few minutes ahead of this game today. And as somebody that grew up in Ohio, I have 2 words for you. Beat Michigan.
I have 2 more words for you. No problem. Take care, guys.
Thanks.
Have Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate you. Chris Stewart, the radio play-by-play man for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Their football team has a pretty big game coming up on New Year's Eve in the college football playoff.
That's today's 1290 Scouting Report, brought to you by Ram Plumbing. When your plumbing is in trouble, call Ram on the double.
All right, one segment left to go here, and we will have our keys to the game starting lineups for tonight's contest. Arizona versus Alabama. This is the Meridian Wealth Management Countdown to Tip-Off show. We are coming to you live from Willie's Taco Joint, just a 3-point shot away from the Footprint Center where tonight's game will take place. Hopefully the Wildcats won't get beat up like the Sun Devils are currently getting beat up. We'll update that game for you, too, straight ahead. This is Wildcats Radio 1290.
This is the Meridian Wealth Management Countdown to Tip-Off Show on the home of Arizona men's basketball. Wildcats Radio 1290.
Getting you set for Arizona and Alabama at the Footprint Center tonight. It is a 9 o'clock tip-off scheduled. Obviously, it is a tournament setting or event, multiple game event setting format here. So we'll tip off kind of when that other game ends will dictate that. But it seems like they've pretty much stayed on schedule here today. And the game in progress right now, Northwestern and Arizona State on the Mesquite Valley Grower scoreboard. Northwestern up by 19 points, about 13 minutes to go in that one over at the Footprint Center, 44-25. Not a good night so far. 25 points. 25 points in 27 minutes for the Sun Devils. Yikes. Not good.
Yeah. Now I'm watching them here on the TV, and they playing a lot of one-on-one ball versus a team like Northwestern. That's not going to work. Northwestern does a great job helping each other, staying in the gaps. You got to move the ball and run some type of offense if you want to get some baskets.
If you're wondering who this gentleman sitting next to me is, that is our Suns reporter, Daryl Joyner. Say hello, wave to the people, Daryl. There you go. Wave to the folks out there. Daryl Joyner from longtime Phoenix sports reporter up here. Well, not longtime Phoenix, but longtime sports reporter here in Phoenix now. He's been on our show a few times as well. Let's dive in, guys, to our keys to the game.
Wildcats fans, our keys to the game are brought to you by the Royal Automotive Group. Royal Automotive, the dealership that is different.
All right, it's the Wildcats and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Arizona 8-1, Alabama 6-4. Kelvin, you gave away one of your keys to the game earlier, but for those that weren't around, go ahead and repeat what you said.
Yeah, I think versus Alabama, you watch some of the games, and they're not really connected defensively that great right now. They're still working on that chemistry. So I believe you want to go inside to Keyshot and Ballo. Not just Ballo, like I usually say. I really want to go to Keyshot as well because I think he has an athletic, physical, and maturity advantage over these guys today. So I would really love to see him get the ball in the post and go to work as well. Number two, guard rebounding specifically. Long rebounds, the team shoot a lot of threes. There's going to be a lot of loose balls. You got to chase them down and get them. That'll start our break and get us some easy buckets. So long rebounds. I want to see our guards really rebounding well today. And my last one is stay connected to the shooters. And we saw what happened versus Purdue when their shooters got going. This is a team that's going to launch a lot of threes. I'm sure they watched the last game versus Purdue and saw the shots that were available versus us in that game. So I think we're going to have to do a great job of being there on the catch. Secondly, and then I also add, they don't have a big guy, so you don't have to really worry about you know, the big guy going off on you. So that's even more reason to stay within arm length of your guy.
J-Dub, what do you got for us tonight?
Yeah, number one, same as Kelvin, get on the shooters. I like to see under 30% from three because they're going to launch a lot. That's the way. The key to them winning is knocking down a bunch of threes. I'd like to see them hold them, get out on the shooters, less than 30%. Dominate the boards. Arizona, much better rebounding team, plus 10. I'd like to see on that. And again, the paint, live in it. Whether that's drives or getting the ball to Keyshot and Ballo, like Kelvin said. I'd like to see 50 points in the paint tonight versus the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, well, that's my number one, obviously, right there. Live in the paint is the place to be, I think, tonight. This is a team that, like you mentioned, does not have a lot of big guys, and their big guys have been prone to foul trouble. And I think if you can pound the paint and start to pile up that foul count, that's going to be a good thing for the Arizona Wildcats tonight. And of course, coming off the loss at Purdue, you want to see better three-point defense because this is a team, it won't be the same type of style for them to try to get the 3 points with a big guy in and out kind of thing, but they're going to shoot. And you've got to be ready to guard, like Kelvin said last week, off the catch. And, you know, I posted a video on Twitter at one instance early in the game. Communication is going to be key. There was a situation where Kylan and Caleb were guarding a guy on the perimeter. Caleb got lost. That led to one of those early lawyer threes, and you could see how clearly frustrated Kylan Boswell was with that. You've got to communicate to play good defense. So I want to see communication out there with those guards. And Kelvin, I want to ask you this question, just in terms of those rebounds, real quick here. What's the key for guards getting those long rebounds?
Well, one, you have to box the shooter. And when you turn to box that shooter, you can see the bounce off the rim. And you just got to run, man. You got to put that effort in and chase it down. I mean, you playing against an effort team like Alabama, they're going to chase them down, and you just got to meet that effort.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, those are our keys to the game tonight.
Wildcats fans, that's our keys to the game. Brought to you by the Royal Automotive Group. Royal Automotive, the dealership that is different.
All right, before we get to the starting lineups, guys, any final thoughts on this one?
Hey, I just think it's going to be a great game. I just don't want to. I heard you say earlier track meet, but I hope it's a controlled track meet. I hope our guys don't. I think it'll be more to their advantage to be a straight track meet because they don't have the chemistry that our guys have shown to have.
Yeah, I'm most excited, guys, that it's a different style than Arizona's seen this year. So it's like you see all these different styles. It's only going to get you better and better. Different challenges to come up against. This team's going to run. They're going to look to shoot a lot of threes, try to get to the basket. So I'm really looking forward to this matchup just because Alabama's got a lot of firepower. So it's just going to be a challenge for the Arizona defense to slow that down.
Speaking of defense, will we see more zone defense from the Arizona Wildcats in this ball game? Tommy Lloyd, 2-3, maybe a little bit more. What do you think?
We've used the zone one time in a game, and it worked for some possessions. By no means are we going to anoint that the savior of our basketball team, or we've got a very small sample size. So, I'm still, figuring out how exactly we want to play it, and we obviously practice it here and there, but we don't spend much time on it.
No. Well, again, he's a man coach, and man is going to be the primary, as man has been the primary here at the University of Arizona for a whole lot of years. Tommy Lloyd, who turns 49 years old tomorrow. He'll be traveling on his birthday to Las Vegas. Asked this week if he was going to celebrate at all tomorrow.
Birthday bash planned for Vegas on Thursday? Or?
I got a game on Wednesday.
Going straight from there to Vegas?
I got a game on Wednesday. Yeah. And if I did, Bruce, I'll invite you.
Oh, we get one good exchange between Tommy Lloyd and Bruce Pascoe every week. It's great. I call it Club Tommy. Tip your waiters and waitresses. All right, let's find out who's starting tonight for the Wildcats.
The foundation of a great college basketball team begins with the starting lineup. Today's starting lineup is brought to you by Rockin' K, a master plan community designed by nature.
All right, at one guard, it'll be Kylan Boswell, 6'2", sophomore out of Champaign, Illinois. Did not make 3 field goals against Purdue. First time this season he didn't have at least 3 field goals in a game. Caleb Love at a guard position, 6'4", senior out of St. Louis, Missouri, averaging 25 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists over the last 2 games for Arizona. Pelle Larsson rounds out the 3-guard set, 6'5", 215-pound senior out of Nacka, Sweden. He's made 15 of 20 shots over his last 3 games. The man in the middle, Umar Balo, 7-foot senior out of Mali, and he is the career leader in field goal percentage at Arizona at 65%. Keyshawn Johnson, your forward, 6'7", senior out of Oakland, scored a career-high 24 points against Purdue. That's going to wrap it up here from Willie's Taco Joint for the pregame show. We'll be back after the game for the postgame show. Join us here. Stay tuned. It is Arizona, number 4 in the country, versus Alabama. For J.W. Madden and Kelvin Ifan, I'm David Kelly. Thanks to our crew, Jesus, Shane, Riley. Most of all, thanks to you for listening. Bear down, Arizona.
This hour of the Meridian Wealth Management pregame show is brought to you by Broadway in Tucson, Dave & Buster's Tucson, Dorado Rock,